Kegome asked me to worship her, and I directly hugged her thighs. Kegome said it was wrong, but what's wrong with hugging a master's leg? At that moment, something strange happened inside the tower. A lot of spiritual energy was pouring into the statue. A mark appeared on my forehead. I didn't understand what was happening. Kur angrily dragged me and said, "Do you know that when you make a master-disciple pact, a master-disciple mark will appear on the place where their skin meets?" I said innocently, "You didn't tell me. How would I know?" Kur immediately lost her temper, covering her forehead. She helplessly said, "Really? Anyway, this mark will not normally appear. You do not have nothing to take out. Just good." Hearing this, I said excitedly, "Master Kur, so was your mark on your thigh?" This caused Kagome to freak out for a while. The scene shifted and there was a lot of talk in the restaurant. Aisha and Egil were also unmotivated to eat, because the Judgment Tower is a place dedicated to judgment or disciplinary purposes. But I didn't do anything wrong. Why did I get arrested? Kyle, who was next to them, mocked. "I'm afraid the school found out about that guy's talent for taming animals. I think that lowly pariah named you should have been expelled yesterday. After all, a pariah is a pariah." This made Agir stand up and yell at Kyle, "You bastard, what's that bollocks?" Kyle still continued to taunt, favoring that kind of pariah. "You're just the same thing." This caused Aisha to become dissatisfied. "You use talent for taming beasts. Everyone has seen it with their own eyes. The facts are still undecided. Kyle, you'd better pay attention to your words." At that moment, a voice came out. "I think I hear someone missing me. I was only gone for one night. You miss me so much." Aisha smiled happily when she saw it was me. "Aisha is still so cute today." Egil said, "This guy is still so horny." Then she asked, "What were you doing at Kyle's place yesterday?" Before I could answer, Kyle beat me to it. What else? I must have been fired. Aisha was worried. I said, "Nothing. I was just called by Master Kerr to make a master-disciple contract." The noisy restaurant instantly fell silent. They all looked incredulous. Seeing that they didn't believe me, I directly released my seal to prove that I wasn't panicking. And Kyle is not happy. "Even if you really have the gift of beast-taming magic, if you did not run into the magic wolf, you got into the ace class." Then he sneered, "Why don't you have a match with me?" Before I could say anything, Aisha defended me. "Yao has this kind of talent magic. Entering the ace class would be a death sentence." Before he finished speaking, Kyle did not speak of martial arts and directly struck out. He cut off a section of Aisha's hair. This made me extremely angry. When I saw that Aisha was fine, I let go of my heart, looked at Kyle and said with a smile, "Try it. It's okay." I saw my eyes glowing red. "I hope Mr. Kyle will be gentle with his hands." Kyle said, "Come up with your best moves, and if you lose, you're out of the class." This Kyle is really despicable. Agir clenched his fists. Everyone knows that Yao's talent is animal taming, and there are no magical hands on the field. Aisha is getting worried too. "This is not fair to you at all. I'm the only one who's confident." Kyle-san looks confident. At this moment, Kyle still doesn't understand who he's facing. Kyle drew a sword directly from the void. At the sight of this sword, Aisha began to get nervous. Legend has it that the ancestors of the Paulette family had been gifted by the Elemental King with countless crystal treasures, but one of the rarest treasures was a divine sword. If I'm not mistaken, that sword was called the Green Sylph. "It's an interesting sword," I muttered. "I'll tell you what, if I lose, I'll drop out of school, not to mention the class. But if I win, the sword is mine." This directly shocked Kyle. After all, it's an ancestral heirloom. Seeing that Kyle hesitated, he continued to add more fire and showed a harmless smile. Mr. Kyle can't think that he will lose, right? At this time, Kyle gritted his teeth, but he was so confident in his own strength that he finally agreed. He even said in a hypocritical manner, "Don't blame me for not reminding you. There are no magical beasts on the field that can help you block. Don't beg for mercy later." After that, he started to build up his strength, and the sacred light from the divine sword was raging. I didn't expect the sword to perform well. I muttered. Aisha and Egil were staring nervously at the battle, only to hear Kyle let out a loud cry. "The wind judgment." The whole person flew and slashed at me. I just faintly reached out my hand. Even though the attack was so rampant, it couldn't advance even a little bit. Kyle, who saw this scene, had already begun to doubt his life. I didn't even give him time to react. I took the sword away directly and stroked it. "Lord Kyle, you are so generous to give me such a good weapon." "Thank you." This made Kyle angry but not dare, only to stand in place foolishly. At this moment, seeing that I was fine, Aisha also shouted happily. This reminds me of what happened just now. My eyes were glowing red. Let's forget about the attack you made on Aisha. Before Kyle could react, I moved directly in front of him. I pushed him lightly, but it was a devastating blow to Kyle. It sent him flying backwards, spitting blood. It smashed the wall to pieces. This terrifying strength was beyond Aisha and Agir's understanding. Looking at the dying Kyle, I said faintly, "That's all there is to it." Kyle was trembling. His eyes were full of resentment. Seeing that the battle was over from afar, Aisha and Egil excitedly ran over to me. I was praised by both of them. Even with my thick skin, I blushed. Egil suggested that we should go out for a big meal to celebrate. As a foodie, my eyes were glowing. Kyle, on the other hand, was in a worse situation. If his father finds out that he lost Excalibur as a bet, then he would die a horrible death thinking of this. He couldn't help but shout, "No! This sword can't be given to you here." Kyle was going to cheat, and Aisha was the first to say no. That said, if you have such a girlfriend, what more could a man ask for? At this moment, Kyle was still talking tough, saying that he must have played some trick again, and to be fair, he had to start all over again. I immediately refused such a shameless request. Kyle saw that softness was not enough, so he was ready to play hardball. "If you don't give it back, you won't be able to get him out of the arena." And he started to build up his strength in his hands. A riot broke out in the neighborhood. Seeing that Kyle couldn't afford to lose, I started to build up my power, and a cold smile appeared at the corner of my mouth, ready to end this matter directly. At that moment, the Excalibur in my hand flickered with light. It attracted my attention. At this time, Kyle hadn't realized the seriousness of the matter. "Obediently return my sword, and I'll spare you all." I laughed coldly. "So what if I don't give it back? Then you'll all die here." Then I unleashed my attack. The winds of riot. Countless winds of riot rushed towards several people. At that moment, a mysterious force directly resisted the attack, and began to absorb the surrounding aura. In front of their shocked eyes, the divine sword finally transformed into a beautiful girl. The girl kneeled down to the right. "I am the sword of the wind in the hands of the elemental king. I pay my respects to my master." Can you believe that such a cute girl is actually a sword? And she's kneeling on one knee to be my master. According to the bet, Sylph belongs to me now. She asked me what I wanted. The two sisters beside me also expressed their surprise. A sword spirit. No wonder this sword is known as the most precious treasure in the rumors. I coughed and asked her to stand up first. Sylph nodded her head. Kyle next to her couldn't stop trembling when he saw that she was actually so obedient. "I am your master," he shouted. "If you had shown the power of the sword spirit earlier, how could I have lost to that bitch? I now order you to return to my side immediately." Such shameless behavior is really despicable. I asked, "Sylph, do you want to go back?" Sylph shook her head and said firmly, "No. Firstly, if you bet on Sylph, you'll lose your status as a holder. What's more, the old owner lost the match, so Sylph's owner will naturally change to the winner of the match. Secondly, the power of the holder determines whether or not I submit." Hearing this, Kyle was incredulous. I continued, "Now that Sylph has made it so clear, I advise Lord Kyle not to make a fool out of himself." Then I touched Sylph. "I'm sorry, I took the liberty of treating you as a betting house. Is Sylph willing to assist me in the future?" Sylph's face was blushing, and she said yes with a sweet smile. At this time, Kyle's face was cloudy as not just underestimating me. "Then I will prove to you now." After saying that, only the sword hand began to accumulate power. A terrifying spiritual energy emanated from his body, and it continued to expand. At this moment, Kyle had already fallen into madness. The powerful spiritual energy was ravaging the whole arena. A fiery red phoenix rose up to the sky. "If this continues, I'm afraid the entire arena will be razed to the ground," I said calmly. "Don't worry about me." Before I finished speaking, I saw a pair of small hands on my hand. Sylph said with a serious face, "Master, please use me." I nodded with a smile. Then Sylph turned into Excalibur. Looking at the phoenix that came at me, I broke it with a single blow. True men never look back at explosions, and my charming back shadow. I left a deep impression on Aisha and Egil's hearts. Kyle was lying on the ground, thinking, "It's over." The scene changes and the group has arrived at the restaurant. There are all kinds of food on the table. I feel like I've got a chance to show off. I asked Aisha, "Do you know how the food should be eaten?" "Is it the best?" Aisha replied seriously. "Is it to eat it while it's hot?" I said gently, "No, no, no. It's for me to feed you." Such a sweet reply directly made Aisha blush with love. The scene changes. The vice headmaster Claire murmured. It learned about Excalibur from the little man on the table, and instructed the paper man to inform Kegome and Lord Amaniz to see what to do about it. Even though Sylph had lost, Excalibur had given birth to the Sword Order. I'm afraid the Paulette family won't give up easily. The scene changes, and I'm lying in bed. I'm thinking that Elsa is still so lovely and gentle today. Let her wear a maid's outfit and gently say, today. Master, are you hungry? I've cooked a love meal today. The more I thought about it, the more excited I became, and I rolled around in excitement, mumbling about Aisha. At that moment, a small green head poked out. Looks like the owner is happy. Good lord, that straight away gave me a fright. Sylph had a resigned look on her face. Sorry, because she suddenly sensed a violent fluctuation in her master's mood. So she came out without permission. I touched Sylph and said gently, "It's fine, next time tell me before you turn into human form." Sylph inquired curiously, "Then why is master so excited about it?" I shook my head. "You're still young and don't understand. It's a kind of joy that feels the coming of spring, stemming from the restlessness of the heart." Sylph's eyes lit up. "Sounds a lot like the physical needs I know of." I nodded slowly. "It's almost the same thing." At that moment Sylph blushed and tugged on my leg. I wondered if I could help my master with this difficult need. I was stunned. I said it wasn't a good idea, but Sylph said it was Sylph's duty to help her master. I coughed lightly twice to ease the embarrassment. "Since you're sincerely asking for it, I'll reluctantly let you help out a little," only to see a pair of scissors manifest in her hand. "It will hurt a bit. Don't be afraid, master. I will be very gentle." I was so scared that I directly kneeled down and cowed out, "I'm sorry. I was wrong." The scene changes. At this moment Kagome is looking at Egel's resume, curious about Agir's identity, then looking at Yu's resume. This guy doesn't even know how he won today. Never mind. I'll teach him a lesson tomorrow. Then I went to bed. The next morning, I was called by Master Kagome. Looking at his gloomy face, I was panicked. It seems that yesterday's big announcement and the contract with Master Core was exposed. Luckily, I was able to talk my way out of it, but it's the Excalibur that's the problem. Yellowhair's family is a great noble. Yellowhair was the first to initiate the duel, and you were only a passive participant. But you not only injured Yellowhair, you also abducted the other family's sacred weapon. Yellowhair's family didn't kill you directly, so you've already given the Royal Academy face. I've just taken you on as my disciple, and you're causing trouble everywhere, and I have to wipe your arse for you. But you'll have to face the punishment of not stepping out of your room until you've finished reading this introduction to magic. Core is afraid I'll cause trouble. She won't let me call her master." I said, "Do you want me to change my name to wife?" Before I could be happy, a thick book hit me on the head, only to see Core said with a gloomy face, "What did you say just now? I didn't hear you clearly." Cough cough. "Nothing. Then I'd better call master." Core finished her sentence and hurriedly went to look for the headmaster. The headmaster had already received the news, and it wasn't impossible to solve the problem. However, the Yellowhair family has one condition. Your master and I must attend the magic conference, although we know that the other side will definitely do something. But this is the only chance to solve this matter. Core can only reluctantly agree to it. At this time, I still don't know that I've been sold. I was working hard to memorize the magic primer, hoping to be unsealed soon. Sylph stared at me. This made me a bit strange. "What's wrong?" Sylph shook his head, without understanding. Obviously the master is so powerful. Why didn't he say it out loud? This made me fall into deep thought. When a person is strong to a certain point, ordinary people are only in awe of you. They don't dare to get close to you at all. The more you gain, the more you lose. She then asked, "Master, don't you have any companions?" "My companions are all traveling. I don't know what they are doing now, but it's not bad to be an ordinary person like everyone else." Sylph thought to herself, "Master, do you have any misconceptions about ordinary people?" The scene changes. The students are discussing. "I heard that the flame which has taken on a disciple." "That's not a disciple. They're clearly a couple." "A couple, but I saw it in the restaurant. The master and disciple engraving on his head." "You don't get it. Only couples who are madly in love would engrave the engraving on their head. These days I heard that they were always dating and not attending classes." Hearing these words Aisha fell into a deep thought. The sadness was on her cute face. It was evening. Chloe had brought me dinner in case I was hungry, and was worried about me. I forgot to unlock the entry and exit spell. I don't know how this stupid apprentice learned it. Then she unlocked the door. After I opened the door, I even said with concern, "How's the book? I've brought you some food." Before she finished speaking, the scene in front of her eyes made Core stupefied. From the outside, there was a dazzling light and a buzzing sound. The scene came to the house. "My mother is wiping your arse, but you are enjoying yourself here, teaching you how to behave in minutes." At this moment, I obediently knelt on the ground, muttering, "I'm sorry, master. I won't dare to be lazy next time." Sylph also introduced herself. Seeing such a cute little loli, even Kier couldn't resist it. I couldn't help but stare at her. "She's so cute." Coco coughed lightly to ease the embarrassment, and then informed me that I would be attending the Imperial Capital Magic Exchange Conference next week. I just wanted to stay put. I didn't want to go anywhere. However, I was directly educated by Sylph. Seeing my expression of hopelessness, Kerr explained that the Yellowhair family is powerful, and that if we want to resolve the matter of Excalibur, we'll have to go there. "I'm not afraid afraid of the yellow hair family, but it's not good to be missed, Kagome said. If I refuse, I'm afraid that everyone around me will be harassed, and it seems that this magic conference is going to make an example of me. When I heard this, I laughed lightly. Don't worry, Master Kur. We don't know who's going to make an example of who. Besides, this matter involves Sylph, so let's reluctantly take a walk and see what they are going to do. The lovely Elsa is worried because she hasn't seen me for a long time. Today, I took Rose to see Elsa and told her how lovely she was. Aisha was so happy in her heart, but on her lips, she still said, Sylph and Kagome-sensei, that's what's cute and charming, right? Cute girls are so cute even when they are jealous. Aisha looked at the departing carriage, her eyes revealing endless sadness. Right at this moment, a black shadow appeared behind Aisha, to which Aisha didn't have any reaction. She just murmured, You're here, Aisha-sama. Now that this school has no decent manpower, I think we can start the mission that the Lord has given you tonight. In addition, I see that the boy called you seems to like you a lot. If the Lord knows about it, he will be angry. Hearing this, big sister Aisha hurriedly turned back and said, Regarding you's matter, I hope you won't report to the Lord and Mother. Please, I beg you. It depends on how well you do this time. Aisha, on the other hand, did not say a word, gripping the corner of her coat tightly with her hands, pursing her lips, tears constantly turning in her eyes. Kagome and Yu's carriage, which was speeding along the specially constructed road, hadn't even traveled half the distance. Kur was sitting opposite Yu, her brows furrowed, her heart calculating whether she could make it on time or not. The main reason for all of this was the stupid apprentice in front of Kagome, who was holding a rubbish bag and vomiting furiously. The scene changes to Capella Manor. The carriage has stopped in front of a very luxurious mansion. The guards standing in front of the mansion naturally knew the Flame Witch's name, so they didn't try to stop her. Ku'er refused the butler's invitation to leave first, and then turned around and walked towards the mansion. Sylph and I went in for a big meal first. Just then, the young lady who just led the way for us was beaten up. I asked you to bring Miss Kerr here. How did you do it? The girl was trying to explain, but the man next to her spoke up first. Yes, Lloyd, I've told you repeatedly. Why don't you remember? When I saw this, I taught Sylph. See, this is called dumping. The man looked back at us both. Plates full of food, slightly unkempt clothes, and then he introduces himself in a mildly amicable manner and asks if there's an invitation. When I said no invitation, if you don't have an invitation, please leave now. Sylph was ready to strike when she heard that man's rude words. I hurriedly stopped Sylph and explained, I came here with my master, Kur, so I don't have an invitation. Hearing this, Wendell couldn't believe it. Nonsense. My family Ku'er is so beautiful and excellent. How would she accept a guy like you as her disciple? I held back my anger and explained, if you don't believe me, you can ask the butler next to you. He was just at the door to greet me and Master Kur, but the butler didn't dare to admit it for fear of getting angry with him. Wendy shouted, That's enough. You're not worthy of being Kur's disciple. Just then, a voice came. He is indeed my disciple. Just see Wendell, who had been so angry just a moment ago, instantly smiled. So he really is Kur's disciple. Then it was all a misunderstanding just now. So as a token of my apology, let me show Miss Kur this year's magical achievements. I saw Ku'er playing with my hand. Then she smiled and said, My fiancé and I can see for ourselves. Master advertised that I was his fiancé, although it was a shield. But now that it's been said, it's far from being true. Wendy has always liked Kur. How could he not expect Kur to be engaged to a civilian, not even agreed to his quest? The butler next to him helped to come up with an idea. Today is an exchange meeting, and celebrities from all walks of life are present to watch. But Chloe didn't have any results to show at the conference, so we can suppress her. Then she summoned the maid to show off her newest potion. Although the flavor is a little bitter, a small sip of this potion can make one's body's spiritual energy reach a state of abundance. It's simply a miraculous medicine. Listening to the comments of others, Wendell smiled from ear to ear. He also said in a conspiratorial manner, Right, Ku'er, I just heard that some people, who have no magical achievements this year, dared to come to the exchange meeting to dilly-dally. It's really disgraceful. The corner of my mouth revealed a cold smile, directly poured the potion on the ground, looking at their angry faces. Oops, I'm sorry. My hands were shaking for a moment. At that moment, Wendell finally couldn't help himself. He felt that I had made a carefully prepared potion. Do you know how many expensive herbs were used in this potion? It's just vanilla powder, dragon snake scales, poisonous fireweed, and pure water from the bottom of the ice field. Right, I can make 10 or 8 bottles of this kind of common potion a day, and you still have the nerve to show it off as a treasure? At this moment, Wendy couldn't believe it. This potion took me a whole month to to make, and the effect is excellent. I'd like to see if you can make 10 or 8 bottles for me today, Kur said with some concern. Silly apprentice, don't mess up, I said lightly. Master, don't worry about it, just need to trouble Master to help me prepare some things, Kur promised, but also asked curiously, but how do you know this potion materials and practices? Just when I thought I was exposed, Sylph explained when the potion was served. Sylph whispered it to Master. Sylph, as the sword of the elemental throne, can distinguish the materials from the magic elements emanating from the potion. Kegom also believed this statement, but after everything was prepared, the crowd looked at the parsley on the table, the radish, the hepatica, the 300 herbs, and again, the stovetop. They all laughed out loud. They were planning to cook for us. I don't bother with these ignorant people. I start directly. I casually put on my battle robe. I put on my robe and took out a handful of leafy greens and peeled them. Add some turnip and cabbage, ginger, onion and garlic. Then I start stir-frying with a spoon. In just a moment, the flavor of the dish dispersed the aura of the neighborhood. The people present had never seen such a way of refining medicine. At that moment, countless magical powers gathered inside the pot and eventually coalesced. This completely shattered their perceptions. Then it was poured into the bottle. At that moment, a man came forward. I wonder if I have the chance to taste your potion. This person is a master of magic pharmacy in the Madsen Empire, along with Chief Magician Acemans. After receiving permission, Madsen began to taste it, but the taste turned his perception upside down. He couldn't stop trembling, not expecting to see someone make a magic elixir in his lifetime. The magic elixir can increase the spiritual journey geometrically, and it has been lost for nearly 300 years. Madsen replied in a low voice, is correct. And this kind of alchemy agent French so-called do not know what is the secret of it. The old man is also a man of knowledge. Put down the cup, then bent down and bowed. If it is possible, I would like to share half of my assets. I beg you to tell me. I casually refine the magic elixir. Also, someone is willing to exchange half of the assets. I just laughed. Who knows if you are a poor man? Half of the family assets. If there are only 2 or 3 dates, I will not lose a lot of money. Before I could refuse, Wendell made a preemptive move and said he could add more. The whole room was silent immediately. Although Wendell is not the head of the Capella family, his assets are still over 100 million. I scratched my ear and said, but I have no intention of selling it to you. But Wendell said that he would take a cut of the sale of the potion. I'm not short of money, but he's giving me too much. I didn't realize that his family was so rich that half of their fortune contained 3 space rings. Once everything was ready, I taught them the secrets of making elixirs. It turns out that no one in the world can make a spirit potion. It's not the materials, but the equipment used to make it must have a corresponding magic array to absorb the magic elements in the air. The materials only serve as a carrier. After a brief introduction, Wendell understood the principle of it. Wendell didn't expect it to be so simple, which gave him more confidence in the mass production of magic elixirs. But Wendell said there was one more thing. Not long ago, the Lal volcano erupted. In the depths of the cave, a rare magical beast, the fire griffin, was found, and it was certain that the griffin was guarding a jade that was burning with fire. That jade must be the legendary treasure of the Oriental continent, so he was ready to cooperate with Kegom. After all, Kegom is a fire mage, so she can do twice as much with half the effort. Kuer's heart moved, seemingly thought of something, said that the jade does not need as long as the Chilin's heart blood. Wendy didn't even think about it and agreed directly. However, I could sense a hint of abnormality in the other party's decisiveness. This trip might not be that simple. The scene changed and the butler asked his question. Wendell used half of his family's fortune to buy the formula that could be passed on, and also told them about the fiery unicorn. Is this not proper? I only promised to take them there, but I didn't say I'd bring them back. This is a perfect plan. The maid led us back to our resting room. I asked Kur why she didn't want the jade, but the blood of the Chilin. It's because the blood from the Chilin's heart can turn a fire magician's mortal fire into a heavenly fire that can evolve everything. Drinking it is what will allow my natural magic to awaken. I think you've guessed that I took you as my apprentice in the hope that you can help me subdue the fire unicorn successfully. I'm sorry. Was I too selfish? That's a good point indeed. It's quite selfish, but truly selfish people never make choices. Like me, I want the jade and the forest spirit. I want them all. Kegom blushed a little when she heard that. But we're leaving for the volcano the day after tomorrow, and you don't even have any elemental magic yet. So I'm going to make a contract to replenish my magic temporarily, because it takes 2 seals to replenish magic power, and Chloe's mark is on her thigh. Cole pressed me hard against his thigh. After a few operations, it was over. If it were possible, I'd like to hold on to that thigh forever, and I I almost fainted from happiness, but to outsiders, it looks like staying in the guest room for a few days, and making strange noises from time to time. So that Wendell, who had always liked Kagome, blushed hard. At that moment, the man next to him interrupted Wendell, who was scolding him angrily. This man is one of the 4 ace mages of Hastan. He was sent by Wendy to deal with me and Kagome. Inside the room at this time, after Kerr's personal tutelage, I had successfully learnt the elemental grinding. I thought to myself, this way I won't be afraid of my hellfire being exposed. The scene shifted and Aisha in the academy got the target of the trip. A few days later, at the foot of the great volcano of Lol. I didn't think that I, being the strongest in the world, would still get seasick. I didn't realize that I'd be stopping at a random location. I didn't realize that there would be a large group of wind lizards, and a high-ranking magician was being chased by the wind lizards. Wendell cursed at the sight. This idiot. I invited you to hunt the Qilin, not to stab the lizard's nest. He was in a panic. He didn't want to become a lizard's feces. This lizard is a great beast, famous for its speed and poison. There are so many of them. It takes time and effort to fight them, and they needed to save their strength before hunting the Qilin, so Wendell told them to retreat. But just then, the man saw an unbelievable scene, only to see the Lizard King lying on top of me, being so sweet and adorable. Wendy was shocked and asked Kerr, "Your fiancé doesn't know this Lizard King, does he?" Kerr hurriedly waved her hand. "How could that be? It's just that his affinity for summoned beasts and magical beasts is just a little bit higher than that of ordinary people, right?" I didn't realize that Kagome knew Versailles. At this point, Wendy also then politely shouting, "Mr. Wright, can you tell them to get out of the way a little bit, so that it is convenient to continue to rush the road?" But I thought of a better way. This group of lizards came at the right time. A rumbling sound was heard. It's quick and convenient to ride on a wind lizard each. It's quick and easy to ride them. Isn't that great? We're even ahead of schedule. When we arrived at the cave, the lizards are getting restless, so there is something in there. But it's none of my business. I just need to keep an eye on Kagome. At that moment, Chloe greeted the group and asked them to go inside. Stepping into the cave, inexplicably, it's a bit depressing. Wendell looked at my back, not realizing that I had such a high affinity for magical beasts. I thought to myself, even if Kagome and I subdue the Qilin, we won't survive the day. When we arrived at the interior, there was a precious jade by the lava, but the magic fluctuation of this jade seems a bit familiar. When Wendell saw that the griffin wasn't there, he was ready to take the jade. Before he could get close, a ball of magma rose up to the sky. He's lucky he wasn't trampled to death by the griffin. In front of him was the rare magical beast, the fire unicorn. The magicians are forming a formation around us. Chloe was worried about my safety, so she told me to stand aside and wait for the right moment to use my taming talent. I think Kerr was right. With a beast like the griffin, the pressure I unleashed might be counterproductive. It's not like I can knock the griffin over in front of everyone. As expected, ordinary people aren't that easy to be. The fire griffin presses in step by step with its aura, and the magicians can't sit still any longer. They used a group ice spell, Ice Hearse. They're going to seal the griffin, but they obviously underestimated the Qilin's strength. He shook off his restraints, and quickly rushed forward. The magicians were already infected by the spell. They were injured and slowed down. They were in danger of dying. Kagome jumped up and blocked the fire Qilin, giving the others a chance to retreat. But the fire Qilin was clearly superior. After a terrifying collision, Kagome could only retreat for a while. The most important thing is that Jade has been knocked out of the room. The crowd was anxious. They saw it about to fall into the lava. I sighed and leapt out, not realizing that I still had to make the move. Amidst the shocked looks of the crowd, I returned safely with Baoyu, but I noticed something unusual about Baoyu. He actually had the breath of life on his body. I was about to tell them the real identity of this thing. This is not a precious jade at all. Hands of emptiness suddenly appeared from the back. I was shocked. I could only push Kerr away in a hurry. I got caught up in it on purpose to see what the other side had to offer. At that moment, the Kirin was also bound by vines. The surrounding magicians took the opportunity to attack the Kirin. The Kirin was already dying. Deity. What's going on? Wendell's not hiding anything. What's going on? You don't think I'm sincere about working with you, do you? It's not in vain that I hired Lord Void to take care of you. If anything happens to my disciple, you won't be able to leave here alive. If anything happens to my pupil, you won't get out of here alive. At that moment, Hastings stepped out of the void. Unfortunately, I'm afraid your disciple has become a meal for the Void Lord in my realm. Despite her usual bickering, her heart is full of me. Kagome recalls the time she spent with me. She didn't expect me to die in front of his eyes, and her anger filled her body. Then I'll take your lives to pay for it. I'll use the big move, flame entanglement. Then he leapt up and rushed towards Asta with hot flames and fury, but when it landed on the door of space, it was swallowed up. The door of space can actually rebound the damage, and reflected it directly back. Kerr was directly injured by its own magic explosion. This is already Kerr's strongest attack. I did not expect to be able to break the other side of the defense. At this moment, Kerr was half kneeling on the ground. A sense of powerlessness filled her whole body. Void magic is a magic excluded from the basic system. Kegom's red inferno sword can't control it at all. I advise you to stop struggling unnecessarily, and die obediently. The villain next to her didn't want Kagome to die so easily, and even showed a lewd smile on his face. Is it really over? Kagome's been beaten to a standstill. Moreover, Kagome's red flame sword was unable to restrain Haston, and there was only one way for her to do so. Kagome looked at the injured Kirin. That is to take the blood of the griffin to awaken her natural magic. In response, Haston just laughed. Don't worry, it's just a waste of effort. Drinking the griffin's blood made Kagome's body feel like it was on fire. What a fool! Drinking the blood of the griffin will only burn you alive. But Kagome had faith in Assimilis and didn't believe his teacher would lie to him. You believe that, old man? Armus, I see you don't know anything about him, Aston said with a sneer. And with that, he was ready to lead the crowd away. At that moment, a powerful flame surrounded Kagome's body. At this moment, Kagome had already awakened her natural magic. The Lord of all Flames, even though he had awakened his natural magic, he wasn't happy about it. Revenge was his only obsession, and he began to build up his magic power. Asta also wanted to release his void spirit power. Asta wanted to unleash his void spirit power to face Kur's heavenly flame, but he didn't know that he couldn't use it at the critical moment. The Lord of the Void did not respond. Asta was unable to move his body when he saw the huge flaming giant coming. He could only watch as the dragon pounced. He could only resist, and eventually fell to the ground. Although Kur had already obtained the desired talent, but she was not happy at all. At that moment, there was a round of applause. Kagome saw that it was her master. He was about to complain to him. Master, what are you doing here? Acemans walked over and said, It looks like you have awakened the gift of magic. Kagome said, Yes, but I always feel that my teacher is strange. Hastan on the side couldn't help but laugh out loud. Don't you understand? This old bastard, he has been eyeing the day you awakened your natural magic from the very beginning. After all, he is the demon king of predation. The foster father is actually the horrible demon king of plunder. Legend has it that 500 years ago, a monster appeared who was able to take away other people's natural magic and was undefeated for 200 years in the history of mankind. But history records that he disappeared after his battle with the seventh angel, Huzilia. He was rumored to be dead, so how could he be Aceman's teacher? Aceman said faintly, Kagome, you told me that if you awakened your natural magic, you could help me a lot, but that's too much trouble. Why don't I just take your natural magic? Before Kagome could react, Acemans grabbed Kagome and said, But if I hadn't foretold your awakening, child of the flame, you wouldn't think I'd be so kind as to adopt you. Look at you! You're so pathetic. Your only purpose in existence is to awaken your gift of magic for me to take. And with that, he began to loot. At that moment, Kagome couldn't believe that the teacher she had always respected was only using her as a tool. Kagome shed tears of grief and called out to her teacher, and after Acemans had plundered Kagome's gift, he threw it away like a piece of rubbish. Feeling the power of the heavenly flame, he muttered, It's really a good talent. Then there's no use in keeping you. I'm not going to be able to do anything with it at the side. Hastan was trembling. This old undead. After dealing with Kur, I guess it's my turn. Damn it, why isn't the Lord of the Void reacting? Just then, a powerful force collapsed the void. Then I saw Kagome lying next to Acemans. I didn't expect that in just this little bit of time, Kagome would be bullied like this. My face was gloomy. Who did this to me? Acemans didn't hide it either. I did it. Then he kicked Kagome to the side of me. I held back my anger and asked if he had taken Kagome's gift. Yes, but you should be happy for your master. After all, she did her part to help me destroy the apostles. I've worked so hard for so many years. Until today, I finally have both the heavenly flame and the bathing flame. In the future, I will be able to point my sword at the apostles and control 10,000 cities. But before that, I still have to take care of you rubbish.